Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be checking out Chilling Scares 6 most disturbing abandoned building encounters. I'm very excited to check this out. All this footage is caught on camera apparently, and so it'll be interesting to see that. But anyways, let's hop right in.
And always alone. In June 2022, he visited the abandoned Westinghouse Electric Factory located in Cleveland, Ohio. Built more than a century ago, the factory originally consisted of 7 different buildings.
So let's get like a little history lesson here, I guess.
By now. Even though the Westinghouse Company was
I never
established in
majored in history in
1886,
college,
it didn't reach Cleveland until 1894.
But it was always a good subject.
Founded by Thomas Edison, Westinghouse is best known for the notable engineers who worked for the company, including Nikola Tesla and William Stanley. For several decades, the Westinghouse Company rivaled General Electric, and it was last used as a lighting equipment production plant before its abandonment in 1979. For the past 4.5 decades, the abandoned factory has been one of the hottest urban exploration locations for curious explorers and YouTubers. In 2012, the factory started receiving even more attention after the Black Widow interrogation scene from the first movie of the Avengers was shot there. 10 years later, Chris made the trip to the abandoned factory and recorded everything he saw. As Chris begins exploring, there doesn't seem to be anyone around, and only the sound of crickets can be heard in the darkness as he walks around the outside.
I feel like it's so much safer when you have the movie set.
Disturbingly, the sound of gunshots can be heard in the distance less than 5 minutes into the recording.
Instead of being there
it's
like alone.
It's worth mentioning that for the past few years, Cleveland has been ranked as one of the top 10 most dangerous cities in the US, making this visit to the abandoned factory even more risky.
Somebody's shooting. That's Cleveland.
Dude, I'm surprised this happens in Cleveland. Like I would have thought it would be like more
crazy.
Dangerous cities like Chicago or like New York. Not like I didn't know Cleveland was dangerous.
Not even that far away from here. Oh, that sounds like a shootout.
Chris has experience exploring everything from abandoned mental hospitals and sanatoriums to vacant occult temples, and he shrugs off the fear as he enters the creepy building.
I mean, I guess he has experience.
Just like in many abandoned buildings, Chris finds a mattress on the floor, meaning at least one person has been sleeping there recently.
Exploring me alone.
As he captures footage of the first floor and walks up the stairs to the second floor, all that can be heard in the eerie darkness is the sound of his footsteps. A few minutes later, Chris goes down to the basement, and the footage becomes increasingly creepier as Chris runs into a series of dead ends under the leaky, moldy ceiling.
Okay, I'm hearing something. Maybe it's an animal. There's animals down here.
At several points during his exploration of the basement, he can be heard making comments about a strange noise coming from somewhere.
Yo, what if it's not animals?
And
What if
at
it's
first he seems to
humans,
think it's an
though?
animal. Alarmingly, he finds a few shell casings on the ground from what was probably a 9mm
Yeah, or it's like a
handgun.
gang thing.
Although it would be pretty unsettling to
Or
find
like,
something like
I
this
don't know,
lying on the
like
ground in an
violence or
abandoned
something like that,
factory
I don't know.
basement, it's worth mentioning that police departments often use abandoned buildings and complexes for training exercises. However, in this case, it's impossible to know if that's really what happened. Shortly after, he comes across a series of disturbing messages on the walls. He continues recording as he walks down narrow corridors, and this is where things get a lot more disturbing.
This place is so wet.
Yo!
Oh, scared.
Yo, is that a person? Yo, wait a minute.
Yo. You need some help, bro? Yo.
Dude, the fact he's not responding is even scarier.
He's not even responding. I'm gonna leave him alone. Get the f out of his way. Bro, that's crazy.
After about 20 minutes of exploring, the visit takes a very dark turn as Chris runs into a hunched-over man without a light at the far end of the room. He calls out to him and asks if he needs any help, but the man doesn't move or respond, and Chris decides to leave him alone. Understandably, Chris's breathing can be heard getting louder and heavier after the extremely unsettling encounter, but things were only about to get more disturbing for him.
You know what? I'm gonna help that dude out. I'm gonna get this dude a $20 bill. Yo,
Dude, what if he charges you though? What if, like, you're trying to help him and he, like, stands up and, like, flails his arm and, like, charges you like crazy?
He's not there.
Like how you see in all those horror movies, dude. Like, what if he just charged you?
About 4 minutes later, Chris decides to go back to help the man out by giving him a $20 bill. But alarmingly, when he goes back to the room, the man is no longer there. This could be incredibly dangerous, as squatters are known to behave aggressively toward unwanted visitors. And because they know the place better than anyone else, they can easily hide in the shadows and attack or scare visitors when
You know,
they
I'm
least
surprised
expect
they don't
it.
have, like, these
One
vacant
theory that
places
many
get,
viewers
like,
seem to favor was
explored
that
by, like,
maybe the
government
man was
or, like,
not a
local
homeless person
city
at all, but a
officials,
gang
like,
member who was hiding from the shootout
every
that
once
could
in a
be
while
heard
to
at the
make
beginning
sure
of the
that, like,
video.
nobody's,
However,
like,
it's
sneaking
impossible to
around the
confirm if
building
this
or
was
anything
actually
like
the
that.
case, and it seems pretty unlikely given his strange behavior. As he continues searching for the man, Chris notices bats flying around the basement, and things get even more eerie at this point.
There's a lot of bats down here too.
Right when he walks into one of the rooms, if you look closely at the far left of the screen, you can actually see the man from earlier standing in what used to be a door frame, staring at Chris in the darkness.
I didn't see that.
Alarmingly, Chris doesn't notice and continues walking.
I didn't see
It's
that before.
impossible
Wow.
to know how long the
I
man
didn't see
had
that
been
the first
following
picture,
him, and in these
or
kind of situations,
I didn't see
it
it
can be hard to
before.
gauge the squatter's intentions. A few minutes later, the squatter can be seen walking outside as cars pass by the side of the building. At one point, Chris mentions he thinks the guy said hello, but it
Like,
can't be heard clearly through the camera
While this is
audio.
creepy,
Just
like,
when
at
he
the
decides
same
to head out,
time,
he hears a cell phone vibrate,
I kinda want to,
indicating
like,
that
to
there are
help
more
these
people down there
people,
with
'cause,
him
like,
hiding in the darkness.
some of them are, like, definitely
Having had
good
enough
people who are
disturbing
just, like, in a
encounters for the
rough
night, he
spot.
decides to play it safe, and fortunately, he was able to leave the building unharmed. He never found out who that man was, and since then, he hasn't uploaded another video of the Westinghouse factory. This video was recorded in Tartu, Estonia, and uploaded to YouTube in August of 2016. In it, a group of 4 teenagers visit an abandoned sauna that was built more than a century ago in 1915, back when Estonia was still part of the Russian Empire. After fulfilling its purpose for 80 years, the sauna was decommissioned in 1995. The building remained abandoned for 23 years until in 2018 it was fully renovated and turned into a beauty salon, which is still operating as of this video's upload in 2023. In August of 2016, the uploader visited the abandoned location with 3 friends. Upon entering the building, you can see that it looks exactly what you would expect a building that's been abandoned for 21 years to look like. There's an insane amount of mold growing freely on the walls, the heaters are covered in a thick layer of rust, the floor is full of holes, and the entire structure looks like it could collapse at any second. Throughout the video, the teenage explorers also run into some disturbing messages on the walls. An especially eerie one reads, "You can't hide," and there are also several creepy drawings of stick figures graffitied on the walls in some of the other rooms. For the first few minutes of the visit, other than the disturbing messages and some loose shoes and other personal belongings, there doesn't seem to be any indication that somebody could be living there or had even visited the location recently. However, about 20 minutes into the visit, one of the teenagers finds a door frame covered by a curtain,
Yo,
and they
is that a
decide to
person?
explore the room.
Käisin küll ju, seal, käinud ju.
käi läbi selle lina või jälle.
no kurat, siin on diivan ja see on nii kahtlane. Küsi, kas
Yeah, this is what I'd be worried about getting, like, charged by somebody. Or like
As
somebody
one of the
running,
explorers shines a
chasing me.
flashlight into the room, a gut-wrenching scream can be heard coming from the shadows. Immediately, the 4 teenagers run out of the building in a panic. When they finally step outside, the sun is already set, and the boys get into the car to flee from the location. Although the
I mean, I
explorer
get
was
it, 'cause
too
it's
busy
kinda like
running to
somebody's
show
going into
footage
your
of the
home,
screaming
so I mean, I
man,
kinda get
it's
it.
more than likely that it was a homeless resident of the abandoned building who wasn't expecting visitors. Still, it must have been extremely disturbing to experience something like that, even if they went together as a group. After that day in 2016, the boys never went back to the abandoned sauna again. In March of 2022, YouTubers Meg and Chris uploaded a new video to their channel, Back in Time MC, in which they showed footage of their visit to a rundown old farmhouse somewhere in the UK. In the caption, they mentioned that they found an entry point through an open window around the side of the house. Based on the state of disarray the farmhouse is in, it's clear that nobody has been maintaining it for quite some time. The floor is covered in leaves and cobwebs, the shoes look dusty and unused, and there are even a couple of dead animals lying on the floor, along with some shotgun shells lying on top of a bedside table. The only clues that indicate somebody could have been at the location relatively recently are that one of the light bulbs in one of the bedrooms looks relatively new, and some of the clothes in the closet look only gently used. Based on the pictures that Chris finds on different shelves and hung up on the walls, it appears as if a family of at least 4 children used to live in the farmhouse. As the couple continues with the exploration, they walk into one of the upstairs bedrooms, where they find something very unexpected.
Thin, narrow piece of carpet that comes all the way across. Absolutely nuts. Maybe we'll come into this bedroom here. And wow. Oh my god! You know, you're alive.
You are?
You know, Mum,
You live in here. You can't live in here. Yeah?
no.
But we can't.
We thought it was abandoned. We thought it was abandoned.
You can't live in here.
When he first walked into the room, Chris didn't notice that there was someone asleep in the bed. It wasn't until Meg walked in and made a noise that the woman sleeping in the bed woke up and gave them the scare of their life. Although the uploaders blurred the woman's face out of respect for her privacy, it's clear that she's pretty old. During the conversation, she tells the couple that she doesn't have any family that could take her to live somewhere else less depressing. Out of sheer kindness, Chris and Meg keep the lady company and try their best to understand her situation. She introduces herself as Jane, and over the next 10 minutes they ask her questions about how she ended up living all alone in an abandoned farmhouse. Thanks to the couple's empathy, the initial shock of being startled by the sleeping old lady and seeing her living in such terrible conditions quickly turns into a heartwarming moment in which the 3 of them talk about each other's lives.
What happened was...
30,
I came there
yeah,
to
30
help
years, wow.
somebody.
Okay.
And this is only for a week I'm coming.
Yeah.
And that was 1993.
Oh god.
Wow, she's been here nearly 30 years.
Disturbingly, Jane mentioned she's been living in the abandoned farmhouse for 30 years, and even though Chris and Meg offer to help her, bring her food, and buy her clean clothes and sheets, she seems hesitant to accept anything from them, claiming that she's fine living the way she does. She mentions that even though it's not her house, the men who work at the farmhouse know she's there and they bring her food and water every day. In a touching moment at the end, the couple agrees with Jane to visit her again soon. This would have been a happy ending to the story, but Chris and Meg included a caption at the end of the video that cast the situation in a more disturbing light. The caption reads, "I did a lot of research to try and find the name of the farm and whom it was owned by. Luckily, I got the information needed, and I even got a message from someone who knew the farmer who farms there." Chris goes on to explain that the man who reached out to him also knew that Jane was living there, and that the farmer also lives in the farmhouse with her. According to the man, Jane is very well cared for, but she chooses to live in those terrible conditions anyway. The man also mentioned that Jane's husband is up there constantly to make sure she's okay, but she doesn't accept his help very easily, or anyone's help for that matter. It's worth mentioning that Jane might not have been completely truthful about her situation to Chris and Meg. During their conversation, she mentioned that she didn't have anyone to care for her except for the farmer, but the man who knew the farmer told Chris that she also has a brother who tries to take care of her. Not entirely convinced by what the man told him, Chris continued digging for information and found that the farm was not on any land registry records, but there was another property to Jane's name that she owned between 1986 and 2015. After visiting the other property, Chris mentioned that it was as unkempt and beat up as the farmhouse itself. Having heard 2 different versions of the story from the man who contacted him and from Jane herself, he decided to contact Adult Social Services. This is the email he received from them. "Good morning, thank you for your email. I can confirm that Adult Social Care are aware of this lady, however, I'm not able to provide you with any further details. We appreciate your input and the information you have provided, and thank you for raising your concerns with us." Chris then told the man who contacted him to tell Jane that he and Meg would be happy to go back and visit her if she wanted them to. After this, there were no further updates on the old woman, and we'll likely never know what became of her. The only thing we know for sure is that if someone else decides to explore the abandoned farmhouse in the future, they'll likely run into the same situation as Chris and Meg.
Yeah, like
Sadly,
I hope she gets
this type
help.
of situation
but,
is
like,
much more common than many people realize.
Yeah.
With rising
I
prices
hope she gets help,
and the
even though
overall
she said
state
she
of the
doesn't
global
really
economy,
want it or
a large
anything.
part of the
I hope
elderly
she does.
population
Like, have
is
somebody
being
at least to give her
forgotten.
food.
Hopefully,
like
Jane
food
can
or
accept
water,
some
or
help
like
from her
talk, be
family
like more
members
social
and
with
live
her. I
out the
guess,
rest of her days
because I
in
think
much
really
better
being
and
social
healthier
is what it really
conditions
is all
than the one
about.
she was in when the video was uploaded. Robert Fulton Elementary is an abandoned school in a pretty rough neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio. The building is 92 years old and has been abandoned for over 13 years. After several complaints from nearby residents who mentioned that the abandoned building was an eyesore, a potential crime hotspot, and that it was lowering the value of their properties, the mayor of Cleveland announced plans to turn the rundown old building into a high-quality, mixed-income housing unit for the community. Although the idea is still in the planning stages and the city needs more funding to complete the project, the plan is for the renovations to begin by the end of 2024. For now, Robert Fulton Elementary remains one of the creepiest abandoned schools in the country. In May of 2023, Chris Hill, again from the YouTube channel Urbex Hill, uploaded a video in which he made a second visit to the boarded-up, abandoned elementary school. The first video he made of the school was back in 2022. During his first visit, he heard strange humming, chanting, creaking, and banging noises coming from different rooms. This was part of the description in the first video. Most sections of the building are falling apart, and the water and elements have done irreversible damage to the structure. I would not recommend anyone explore this school. You risk getting robbed or worse. With that being said, I heard
people
weird
exploring
noises
alone,
and
this
other
always
various
makes it
things during my
seem more
exploration.
like a worse
After
idea
these
or more
incidents, the
dangerous.
vast
Like,
majority
I feel
of
like you need
people
to have,
have been
like,
too
a
terrified to
partner,
even
or at least
think of
somebody to
going
go
back.
with you.
But 2 years later, Chris decided to make a second visit to the school alone at 1 a.m.
Wow. The decay is crazy in here.
From the very beginning of the footage, it's clear that Robert Fulton Elementary belongs in a different category of abandoned buildings than most others. What stands out the most about the building is the fact that just over a decade ago, children were learning in those classrooms, running and playing in the halls, and now it looks more like something out of a horror movie than a school. The eeriness of the location, the pitch darkness, and the extreme state of decay of the building all contribute to the school's incredibly creepy atmosphere, and not a lot of people would dare go in there at night, much less alone. For a building that has only been abandoned for 13 years, Robert Fulton Elementary is in a much worse state than other buildings that have been vacant for much longer. But Chris doesn't seem to mind as he captures footage of the dark corridors with peeling walls and random debris lying all over the floor. As he ventures deeper into the school, Chris starts hearing strange noises, but nobody seems to be around, and he continues his exploration in the chilling silence. The underlying structure in some of the rooms on the upper floors seems extremely unstable, but Chris shows his expertise in urban exploration by avoiding the surfaces that crack under his feet. After about 15 minutes of exploring the top floors, Chris goes down into the basement, which is arguably the most deteriorated part of the school. As he explores the dark rooms, he finds some indications that other people could be living there. Interestingly, he also finds what appears to be a boiler room that's been flooded with water.
Yo. Dude, I'd be afraid somebody just like jumping out and scaring me.
At around the 30-minute mark, a loud banging noise can be heard coming from one of the rooms, and it becomes very clear that Chris is not alone. As he steps into one of the classrooms, he finds a very eerie message written on the chalkboard, which reads, "Don't explore alone," as well as a paper sign on the door that reads, "Keep out." Despite the clear warnings, he goes inside, only to find more signs that somebody's living there. This is where Chris's visit to Robert Fulton Elementary takes a very chilling turn.
Go, 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 go.
Fearing for his life after hearing the blood-curdling scream, he sprints out of the building to safety, hoping that the man wasn't following him. If you look closely at the footage, you can see the outline of the screaming man when Chris peels back the curtain to his room. Upon reviewing the footage later that night, he found something else even more unsettling. When he first walked into the building, his camera caught something that he didn't notice at the time.
I mean, there could be more than one. There could have been like 2 or 3 people. There could be more than one.
It's not clear where the man went after that, but based on the strange noises Chris heard throughout his visit, it's very likely that the man was watching him all along. Although the scream was terrifying to hear, and we can only imagine what Chris must have felt at that moment, it's worth mentioning that the room he entered was probably the man's home, and from the squatter's perspective, it was probably just as terrifying to see a random man pull back the curtain to his room. These kinds of encounters can often get violent very quickly, but thankfully Chris once again made it out safely. He hasn't uploaded new footage of the location since then. This footage was uploaded in October 2019 by YouTuber Baker X Derek, a tour guide from San Bernardino, California. One day, as he was riding his motorcycle on the highway in California, he noticed an abandoned house sitting on top of a hill and decided to take a look inside. From the very beginning of the footage, it becomes clear that somebody has already been there, and that it probably wasn't the original owners of the house. Unlike many abandoned buildings, you can tell this house used to be beautiful before it was vacated, but that doesn't make it any less creepy to visit, even in the middle of the day.
Oh, I think I hear something.
Derek goes down to explore one of the rooms on the bottom floor, and this is where he hears a disturbing thud. Terrified, he makes a run for it and even trips and falls on his way out, but eventually he gets back on his motorcycle and flees the location. As per one of the most popular theories proposed by viewers, the noise was probably made by a homeless person who was trying to warn Derek to get out of his home. Although squatters don't spend all their time lurking in the shadows, it's common for them to use the darkness as a tool when someone comes into the building unannounced. It's a basic rule of urban exploration that if you hear a loud noise upon entering a room, you should probably leave. Sometimes squatters make a noise as a first and final warning to drive visitors away respectfully. If Derek had pushed forward, he may have been attacked by whoever was hiding in the darkness. It's a natural impulse to call out and announce your presence in these kinds of situations, but squatters will very rarely answer these calls in a normal way. Nobody likes to be seen living in those conditions, and more often than not, the response will be rather aggressive and sometimes even violent. Fortunately, in this case, Derek was able to get away from the potentially dangerous situation just in time. In central Ontario, Canada, there's a small community south of Port Elgin known as North Bruce. To the locals, however, it's known as the Devil's Elbow. According to John, the urban explorer who uploaded this video, the reason for the name was that there was once an occult high priest who lived in the mansion at a cul-de-sac, in which the townspeople used to think there was paranormal activity due to the occult rituals the priest used to perform in his home. The mansion has since been abandoned, and as of today, nobody wants to buy it or live in it due to its chilling atmosphere and sketchy past. According to John, some renovations have been made sporadically since the house was vacated, but as of the video's upload, the house was still abandoned. In 2019, John set out to explore the occult mansion alone at night, but things didn't go exactly as he planned. In comparison to other abandoned buildings, the mansion seems to be in relatively good shape, except for the garage, which has clearly seen better days. About 5 minutes into the exploration, John starts to hear strange noises upstairs, but they seem to quiet down as soon as he climbs the set of stairs.
Okay, guys, I think I've been hearing stuff upstairs, but I'm hoping, and I mean this, I really hope that it's paranormal and not someone freaking in here. This hurts my tongue. My keys are making noises. Freaking somebody down there, dude. Come on, quit messing with me. I'm just trying to freaking. I'll leave. There's somebody else in here. Guys, I've got myself in a bad situation. Oh, jeez.
Disturbingly, as he walks around upstairs, the noises can be heard again, even louder this time, leading John to think that perhaps someone else is in there messing with him. Although he mentions loudly to whoever is in there with him that his only intention is to explore and that he doesn't want to bother anyone, whoever was making the noise doesn't respond and continues hiding. The noises stop for a couple minutes.
Yo, is that a person?
But then something terrifying happens.
Oh, go.
Hello? Is there somebody here? I'm not here to bother or rob anything. I was just here exploring. I thought it was a band.
I mean, yeah, that was kind of like I think that was a smart move.
Disturbingly, a man's voice can be heard
I mean, it would've been
screaming,
good to know
"I'm
who
gonna
was
kill
doing
you,"
it, but, like,
and before catching
it
a
was
glimpse of
definitely
who
good
it
for
is,
on
John
him,
runs
but
out
it's
of the
a smart
mansion
move on
immediately
his
and doesn't
part,
look back
yeah.
until he's a safe distance away from the building. It's unknown who was in the house or how long they had been watching him, or even if they had bad intentions or were just messing with him. According to several viewers, it's very unlikely that the other person in the house was another explorer. In the urban exploration community, people usually help each other out, and there's a sort of code that every explorer sticks to in order to help keep creepy locations as safe to visit as possible. If the other person in the house was another explorer, making noises in an abandoned house and screaming, "I'm going to kill you," would obviously be very out of the ordinary. That leaves the question of who could have screamed at John. It's more than likely that it was just a homeless person who didn't want any visitors, but because John ran out before he could see anyone, this much will probably remain unknown forever.
Thank you for watching this reaction video. I really enjoyed checking it out, and I hope to see you next time on the next video I react to. Thank you so much. Have a great day.